Ladies and gentlemen, boys and germs, welcome to the SAP, the Sex Actually podcast. As always, it is your host, Dave Neal, and your other host, Tasha Courtney.
Your other host.
What do you want? I can never do it right. The co-host, the other host is nothing for you. The lady, the one and only, Tasha Marie, and we are here in a gazebo, folks. If you couldn't tell by this acoustic marvel, we are in a gazebo in the woods of the Berkshire Mountains in western Massachusetts on the border between Massachusetts and New York State. That's right, folks. This is our bug out shelter episode of the SAP. We are on the tail end of a nice long family vacation. How do you feel, Tasha? Are we still engaged? What's happening?
I'm exhausted. Is the truth.
Are you exhausted?
I'm so tired.
You're doing a good job.
Oh, that's the first compliment you've given me.
No, what are you talking about? Does anyone else, any other men out there listening? By the way, there's a big ant. Get that ant. Oh, no, it's good. Look at that giant ant. Don't you have to stand up. Just flick it off.
Babe, you just flicked it into my chair.
I always think it would be funny if we recorded in some boring studio and just made these. We're like, all right, at 2 minutes, I'm going to tell you there's an ant on your chair. But we have yet to see too much wildlife here other than the occasional...
Those fat beavers we just saw, or whatever they were.
Yeah.
Porcupines,
Listen,
beavers,
not the
woodchucks.
fat beaver I was hoping to check out on this trip, but it's the one I got. This beaver had a flat tail. It climbed up a tree. Any biologists out there, can beavers climb up trees?
We're going to have to watch some videos of woodchucks and beavers and porcupines to try and distinguish what exactly this was. But I thought porcupines don't have big tails like that, right? So
I don't know.
It had to be either a beaver or a woodchuck.
Well, what builds dams? What's
a beaver?
Okay, so beavers have the flat tail because they got to pat that dam.
But I heard that woodchucks also have that. What if a beaver and a woodchuck are the same thing?
Very much could be the same thing. I wouldn't have known the difference. I missed that day in third grade where we learned the difference between a beaver and a woodchuck.
If it wasn't very for the cute, chubby little animals.
If it wasn't for the woodchuck rhyme, I wouldn't know anything. How does it go?
How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
How flat's a woodchuck's tail if it wasn't a beaver? No one told me that one. This is the most masshole episode ever. I've got a Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee here, 3 pumpkins, swirl, almond milk. It says almond milk. I asked for oat milk.
I asked for oat milk.
What can you do? You know it's Dunkin' when they fuck up your order. You got to put the mic up to you, like pretend like this isn't episode.
I can't. I don't have headphones, so I'm gonna have no control over what my sound is.
So you have no idea if your hand just drifts away from your face.
Can't.
Well, I'm here to help you.
Pay attention to all things at once.
So what are we on? Day 15? What is this?
Day 45.
Well, let's take it back from the beginning. The last episode we recorded was with Nate Lowe on the rooftop.
So and after no one's heard any of our trip so far.
No one's heard any of our trip other than the Patreon. We did a private episode on the Patreon, which, of course, everyone can go listen, patreon.com/thesap. But we started in Kentucky. And again, we did I would give ourselves an A- rating for our traveling during COVID.
I would give us a solid A. I mean, the only way I would give us a higher score is if we drove cross country and stopped only for necessities or had a private plane. I would say flying commercial, we did as good as we possibly could.
Driving across the country, just touching gas pumps has to be worse than flying.
I disagree because you can use an antibacterial disinfectant wipe every time you touch a pump, or just wear a disposable glove every time you touch a pump.
I think they've proven that coronavirus is not being transmitted through touch.
Yeah, I think it's much more likely airborne than like being transmitted on surfaces. But still, Lysol your shit.
So shout out to Southwest. We flew Southwest. They didn't have the middle seats like, some of these asshole airlines that are just greedy.
Nice and responsible.
And that took us to Kentucky. We spent some time with Tasha's family, and then we drove to Michigan. Mm-hmm. Did I miss anything in Kentucky? I didn't want to get too personal there. Your family was very respectful to let us dine outdoors on this nice patio.
Yeah, we basically did all of our family visiting outside. I mean, we were lucky that we had just amazing weather pretty much the whole trip. But yeah, we did all of our socializing out on the back patio and sitting 6 feet apart. And
played some croquet with your mom. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, croquet.
I couldn't believe how competitive your mom is.
Oh, she's a
Your mom's a very competitive woman.
Yes.
But then when I lose, when I was winning by a sizable amount, she wanted to quit the game and start over. I was like, that's what we used to do when we played video games.
You know who else did that? Who was kind of like rocking that sore loser energy? That surprised me was Tony.
Was he doing that too?
Tony was in last place on that one game we play, and he just decided he was going to quit the game. Him and my mom both actually just decided they were going to dick around.
Come on, Tony, rally up.
Yeah. See you through to the end.
Well, when we were kids, I don't think you can play video games this way now, but it used to be like, we used to play this game called World Series 96. It was just a baseball game. But I was a big Mo Vaughn fan, Boston Red Sox, shout out. And if I wasn't winning 50-0, but in the ninth inning, I could just turn the game off and it would delete the whole. So you could
Dave, come on, tell me you didn't act like that.
Well, I did it because I wanted the stats for Mo Vaughn to be really good. It's kind of like, as a Tom Brady fan now, I don't care that he's not with the Patriots anymore. I just want him to score touchdowns.
Yourself?
Well, no, you don't play against yourself, but you can play against a computer or against somebody else. But then you'd hit one button, and next thing you know, you hit a 500-foot home run. It was like an NBA Jam. It wasn't exactly the most skilled game. I was 11. What do you want from me? Yeah, you'd get ready for the game to be over, and then you just unplug it. I wish you could unplug 2020. Wouldn't that be nice? 2020 is a weird year. We're just gonna unplug it and blow on
factory reset,
and then you'd have to blow on the cartridge like the old Nintendo games. If anyone's listening who's in their early 20s and you don't know what I'm talking about, fuck you and your young, lack of crow's feet face, okay? Fuck you. Because when I had video games, you had to blow on them. This is what the sound... Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Nintendo?
Yeah, the little cartridge.
You had to go from left to right. And then if you didn't get it right, you do it this way. You had like specific ways you'd have to go. And then, of course, my Nintendo cartridge was messed up because I tried to put Play-Doh on it to get an imprint of it. And that Play-Doh hardened, so I could never make a left turn anymore. Hey, what are you going to do? I was 10. Come on.
Respect your stuff.
Live a little. I was trying to make a mold, Power Ranger style. Who knew how this would be as nostalgic as we get? But we find ourselves... Okay, well, we have to go back. So we went to Michigan. Took a rental car, drove it to Michigan, and then in Michigan, I think we alluded to this on the last episode, or maybe we didn't. But
we previewed.
Tasha was invited, asked, demanded to marry Ben and Sarah Ann. Tasha was asked to become a ordained minister.
Yes, ma'am.
And what did she say? She just texted you? Was it a phone call or a text?
No, she called me and asked
that's
me.
very polite. You can't find an excuse. If you want someone to do something, you call them up and surprise them because they haven't been able to think of an excuse why they can't do that.
Yeah, I was kind of stunned when she asked me, but of course I said yes and was happy to help however they needed me to. So, I got ordained, and I'm officially an ordained minister. So if any of our listeners are trying to get quickie COVID married, let me know. Maybe I'll hook you up.
We should have a Patreon level for people.
To hire me to marry them?
For $100, Tasha will come fly to you.
Honey,
I'll eat the
$100.
I'll cut your cake. You don't want to get dirty?
No, I think
your bride
we need to price ourselves a little higher, babe.
Smear her chocolate cake on my face. It was good. I mean, look, we know Ben and Sarah Ann very well. We talk about them all the time. They're a very sweet couple. Sarah Ann's family is cute, top to bottom. Top to bottom, they're just adorable. They got a lake house in Michigan. I've never been to Michigan before, so it was great getting out to Michigan. And again, they were also very respectful with their social distancing. And we,
very small wedding. We all had our own tables.
The wedding was
fantastic.
This is what was sad. This is what's so sad about this year is that they literally only had 16 people at the wedding. So everyone had their own table in a giant... Like, if this wasn't a pandemic, you would think this was the saddest wedding of all time.
But it's actually the most joyous because look at how her whole family and friends, we all came together and made this wedding happen despite all of the challenges. It's a beautiful wedding. It actually is that much more meaningful, I'd say, that we were able to have friends and family come together to celebrate.
And it's interesting going to like the Midwest and seeing people with such normal lifestyles. It is such a
refresher.
Refresher, but also just culture shock to see someone like my own age who owns his own barn. And it's just so different, that you can buy a house for $100,000, or you can do
not anymore, really.
No, but like you can, when we went out to Detroit, people they're buying houses for $1,000 at auction. Sure, they're drug dens that they're probably gonna get shot after, but you get what you pay for. But yeah, it was interesting. We're looking at one guy's Sarian's brother's trail cam footage of all the bucks that are walking by. It's like we don't get bucks that walk by. It's just very interesting. But then it all culminated with our stay here in Massachusetts for my family's little family reunion get together. I think it's about 19 of us.
Before we move on to that, can we do a thought exercise quickly?
Sure.
Because you said we don't have bucks walking by, but if you could pick and choose, design your own life. I'm going to kill this.
There's a mosquito, folks. You got off spray right here. I bought this expensive off spray, and she's trying to clap at mosquitoes. The microphones. Did you hear it, folks? She just killed some. All right, we just just spraying her with off. Gentlemen, let me tell you something. You're going to take your lady into the woods. You better bring off. You got to bring off. Oh, I just got some on my tongue. Can you not ruin the podcast? We're 11 minutes in, and
Come on, we're in a gazebo. All right,
you just started talking like me. You did that raspy gazebo. All right, tell your story. Do your thought exercise.
All right, the thought exercise is, well, maybe we should have a template for this first, but motherfucker.
We don't get mosquitoes on the rooftop in California.
No mosquitoes in Los Angeles, which is honestly like its best mark.
There haven't been many mosquitoes here.
Let's design our life. Let's pick the top 10 things that we want in a life. City versus country versus in between.
Well, first of all, let's say this. I don't want the life that we just came from my uncle's, who lives so deep into the woods of Western Mass that they don't have a neighbor. They've got nothing. I don't want that.
No, they have everything. They have a garden. They're set up to go. They have their water from a well.
You're telling me, like, sure, that's great. I like to get a good retreat, but you're telling me you wouldn't go nuts? Like, I think you undervalue. You've lived in a city your whole adult life.
And you think I couldn't hack it in the woods?
I'm not saying you couldn't hack it.
I think the thing,
but whenever no, you ruminate in your thoughts. So if you get out there in the woods with your thoughts, first of all, we've been podcasting for 11 minutes. You're having a knip shit over the mosquito, the one mosquito. You've drowned it in off.
We'll grow a lot of lemongrass on our property, and we'll put a few bat houses up, so we'll be fine.
The world is open.
I'm just saying, you're underestimating the amount of work required to live rurally. It's a lot of work. There's lots to be done always. So I think that keeps you from ruminating. That keeps you from your thoughts.
Yeah, and I like that my uncle, they got retired, so they moved to a place where they're nonstop gardening and looking at beavers or whatever they're doing out there, building dams. I get it. I don't know. There is something that's there is a creative energy to being in solitude, but there's also a creative
the transcendentalism.
Transcendentalism. You get stuck in the woods all winter like Henry David Thoreau, you come out with a couple good ideas. I totally get that. But also there's something to be said about living in a city with movers and shakers and young energy. There's something that I love about young energy, young hopeful energy that
I completely agree with you.
That's the first.
But here's where I think my experience has changed from my 20s into my 30s.
Whoa, don't bleep out your age there. What the fuck?
What's the time?
Oh, no, you're keeping that. 13 minutes.
13 minutes. All right, 13:51.
Now that you're 40, what does you feel like?
In New York, I really thrived on that city energy. There's something about that high frequency buzzing. Everybody's on the grind. Everybody's a go-getter, out every single day, pounding the pavement, making stuff happen. In Los Angeles, while I think there's a bit of that, for me, it gets lost in translation. It really isn't as powerful of a motivator as it was for me living in New York. And I don't know if that's an age thing because 10 years have passed, or if it's a city thing.
I can tell you what it is.
Los Angeles doesn't inspire me the way New York did. New York really inspired me.
Can I tell you why?
No, shh.
Can I tell you now?
Sure.
In New York, the energy passively smacks you across the face, and in LA, you have to find it. So in New York, you were actively getting your meditation by riding the subway, popping up, doing things on foot. In LA, you have to find that walk around the block. You have to find that thing to do.
While I think there's something to that, my argument would be, why would I put myself in a situation where it's harder for me to find inspiration rather than put myself in a situation where inspiration comes easily?
Where does inspiration come easily?
I really find myself inspired by nature. I find myself these days overwhelmed by the city, annoyed by the city, frustrated by the city. And, you know, I'm not saying that like the smartest thing to do whenever you face challenges is to uproot your life, but I do think you need to set yourself up for success by knowing, here is my strength, here is my weakness. Can I put myself in a position where my strengths will be really highlighted and my weaknesses won't matter?
Okay, I see that. I also think, you know, when it comes down to you know, like we always talk about the war of art, but the idea that you know, finding your inspiration. Yeah, like when I lived in New York, I would find it on the subway because I would spend a lot of time on the subway. I live in Harlem. When you live uptown, you spend a lot of time on the subway. Would I feel as much motivation now that they have cell phone usage in the subway? Probably not.
Yeah,
you know,
because
like,
you wouldn't have those blank moments.
Which is on me, and it's on me. And I know everyone's listening to this podcast, but sometimes when I like over listen to podcasts, I have to turn that side of my brain off because that's just as bad as being a couch potato.
We've talked about how like it's a phenomenon that is the same for everyone, that you get your best ideas in the shower, right? Because that's literally the only time, unless you're one of those psychopaths with a pocket in your
dry erase board in your shower.
The shower curtains that come with a pocket for an iPad. Have you seen those?
No, but that's actually a good idea, but that's a horrible.
That's horrible for your brain. But yeah, so don't be one of those people. But when you put yourself in silence, in solitude, sometimes that happens in the car if you don't have a podcast on or you don't have the radio on. A lot of times that happens in the shower because most people aren't listening to things that are distracting in the shower.
Right,
and then it allows their brain to, like, you know, put out those creative feelers.
So naturally, people
or
find
their,
and I guess this topic we're having now is about finding your creativity. By the way, now that we podcast outdoors, we always mention when the sun's setting. So we have a beautiful
gorgeous
sun setting over the Berkshire Mountains right now. Just letting everyone know as we feel that gratitude and that grateful energy we shared with all of you. Now, like that was a good little moment there.
That was
I noticed on our episode with David Luno that he did a good job of digesting the sunset with us. I watched it back when I was editing the video, which is on my YouTube, everybody. Go to the YouTube to watch these videos, which I think are coming out very well. And he just like sat there and he enjoyed it with us, which is something we always kind of have said. We've kind of been saying this sort of as a joke to be like, all right, now we're watching the sunset. But it's our reminder that the world revolves with or without our approval, and to just enjoy life that comes with us and goes. And that's what we're doing here on vacation. But
it's a practice to be present in the present moment.
So some people, you know, they go, oh, I get all my inspiration when I go to the gym, or I get my inspiration when I go for a run. You like naturally stumble upon the ways of which you get your inspiration, which let's call that alchemy, which, you know, traditionally is the myth on how to create gold, you know, out of nothing or whatever. I'm probably butchering it, but that's what alchemy was. It was like, how can you create gold from nothing? And it's like, how can you create, whether it's podcasting, writing a script, keeping your head straight. How can you do that from nothing? Well, you have to create the space in your life. And sometimes that means, you know, if someone's got a very regimented work schedule, well, that 9 to 5, when you're driving to work, put on a new record you've never heard, or do something that can create the space for you to live in that moment versus just listening to some, you know, AM radio that might scare you or whatever it is. Create the world that gives you the space to let your mind flow. One of the best parts about this vacation, I think, there's a million different things. One of the greatest parts about this trip is being reminded by all of the young. We have about 9 kids on this trip that are under the age of 8. And don't get me wrong, they're wildly insane. They are nut jobs. They're running up and down the halls like maniacs. I apologize for any families that stayed on floor 4
or 3
or 3
or 2 or 1.
3 was probably the worst.
Thunderous.
We had a tap dancing competition. There was a lot going on there, but
they sound like when the T-Rex chases the car, like the walls just vibrate.
Yeah, the coffee just douche, douche. No, not at all.
Of course not.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Have a good dinner. That was very nice of them. Yeah, but the kids, it's good to see not a worry in the world. And you know what's funny? We went on an alpine slide, right? So we went up the mountain. Of course, we're like a ski resort. So there's all these like sort of like slalom courses for people to do on their carts or whatever. And
summertime activities.
So there's 19 of us. The 3 oldest men didn't want to go on it. I'm not including me because they're Brandon, Luke, and then Sean, right? So the dads and the grandfather were like, "Hey, you all go. We don't need to go. We'll just hold the fort." And I was like, "No, you idiots! You got to go on the slalom." And then they went up. So they
were holding the littlest babies that were too young to ride
for
the first pass.
So they went up last and they had a blast and they got to be kids again, because I don't care how old you are or what's wrong with your knees or if your mortgage is too high or your taxes stink or your neighbor sucks. If you're going down these little slalom cart races down a mountain, you're
having a good time.
It's almost like Tasha thought she got she was like, midway through our trip she goes, "I think I got the COVID." She's like, my throat's really sore. I can barely.
No, it wasn't sore. It was itchy.
She was like,
it was like allergies, but I don't know what
she was like, she was like, my throat, I got allergies.
And I was nauseous.
My throat's itchy. So I showed her a GoPro video of the day before riding a tubing on a boat. The whole video is this sound. And I go, "Your throat's itchy because you yelled all day, preacher." But yeah, there's a reminder when you travel with your family. Like we've got 2 of my sisters both have 4 kids. One has 3 boys and a girl. One has 3 girls and a boy. And then my younger brother. And it's so great to travel because have you traveled? Like, have you ever done a trip like this with so many kids? This was like excessive.
I haven't done a trip like that with so many kids since I was one of the kids. But even then, we never had that many kids together on a trip.
The best part was one kid slept water onto another kid, and then that kid's mom slapped water back to this other child. And I'm like, it was my sister, and I go, "You can't do that. You can't slap water onto another parent's kid." That's not even your kid. She goes, "She did it first." I was like, "Gandhi,
you're an adult.
An eye for an eye. You can't do that." She goes, "You don't have a kid, so you don't know." I hate the idea that if you don't have kids, you don't know if you're how to be a piece of shit or not. But I was like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe in 2020 you do slap another person's kid.
Spanking goes in and out of fashion, I guess.
The hardest part I would think of raising a kid is not dealing with if another parent doesn't raise a nice kid. You can't do much about that. You have to let your kid deal with the asshole kid.
What's interesting is I think that communities, family units are changing. Right. There is some evidence to suggest that multi-generational households are coming back into fashion more than they used to be, and that collective living, community living is coming back into fashion more than it used to be, where you might have not necessarily on like a compound, but maybe that's the situation. But they are building like communal housing where like you might have, separate apartments for 8 families, but one shared outdoor space, one shared, like living space and a shared kitchen. And in these communities, the families all help each other raise their kids. So I think that it may become in the near future more socially acceptable to help parent other people's children, because everyone does have a different parenting style. But can you imagine if you had if your parents didn't spank you, but you had an uncle that spanked?
Yeah.
You would probably be a little bit on your toes in front of that
Scared
uncle,
of that
right?
uncle with a nice, Hot Topic belt. Yeah, look, I mean, I think it takes a very enlightened person to look at their parenting style and consider, I don't know. I mean, it's got to be tough. Like we've got a dog. There's no comparison. Our dog cries all night, but it's like we can let him cry all night. We're not going to damage him for the next 75 years. Like if you were to say, it used to be like, oh, you let your kid cry itself to sleep. And it's like, well, that's why we have a weighted blanket now, Mom, like things change, and it's, you only know what you know. And by the way, I don't want to get into this too deep, but when you speak about things change, leaving Los Angeles and coming home to my conservative parents is eye-opening. I've seen other people talk about this, how they'll visit their parents after a little ways away, and that now their parents are sort of radicalized.
Indoctrinated.
I don't want to call my parents radicalized, but I want to be more empathetic to the news they consume. I've never been so happy for them for their business has been successful. They're approaching retirement in a very much in control way. My stepdad's he's created a business. He's had it taken away from him. He's hit bankruptcy and he's back. And it's now, we had to go film something with them, and they have 27 employees that they keep. There's a big ripple effect.
And beyond that, they have their health. They're doing very well.
Right. My mom's lost 50 pounds.
Next phase of their life with security and confidence.
It's so great to see that they're weighing their meals and really enlightening themselves to getting better. Because my mom, she does basically a 12-step program for eating, which I've always been, because I have a sugar addiction and I have to really get back on the horse when we get back to LA. I'll give myself one day, the day
Thai food.
Tasha likes Thai food on a flying day. Or Chinese. She likes a lot of rice on a flying day. I'll give you that. But then after that, I'm going hardcore. Skinny Dave's coming back because it's been a tough couple of weeks ever since I don't know if you heard, but
I don't know if you heard on every episode.
My finger knuckle. But honestly, the day I got stitches, we went to Trader Joe's and we got ice cream and pizza, and I've just kind of let myself go back to
spiraled.
I'm not as bad as the worst of the winter, but I'm anyway. So I'm working on it, but it's really good to see my parents get their health back in order, because my stepdad had a really bad scare last year with a lung issue, to the point where I'm getting a phone call from my mom and you could tell she has no one to talk to. She's trying to run their business, and then she's also sort of ready to, it's weird. It's scary when your parents, I don't know if you've had this, Tasha, but it's scary when your parents call you for emotional support, because they're supposed to have their shit together. So when they call you, it's almost like a crack in the system.
But it's all relative, right? Because we're supposed to have our shit together too, because we're adults.
Have you ever had your parents either or call you for help or just someone to talk to in a very tough situation? It really is scary. And that's I mean, it's a start to what will be your parents approaching the latter part of their life, and we're supposed to have our shit together, and maybe we do to an extent. Maybe we do know things and think a way that they don't and can help them. But for my mom, she just had the weight of the world on her shoulders, but she overcame it, and they've lost a lot of weight. I mean, they really have. She's lost Boone our dog is heavy. My mom lost all of that. And I knew my mom was big, but I didn't feel like she was that big. But she's looking great. She wants photos taken. She's in the pool swimming with her grandkids. Floored. So much gratitude. I wouldn't bring this up to bring the energy down, other than to say as a cautionary tale, I regret even discussing anything political with them, because I don't think it made a grain of a difference. And it scares me how easily you can be indoctrined into a fear mentality. And I don't have a sort of a thesis for how people should act around their family if you have different political views, other than to just avoid it. But my stepdad, he'll insert wildly inaccurate things into daily moments. Wildly inaccurate. He's not a dumb guy. He's not college educated, but he's been a business owner his whole life. But there's something there's something about not having critical thinking that that is more so in the older generation. That you cannot tell them new information and change their mind to an extent.
I wonder if it's one of those things that, you just fall out of practice in the same way that you fall out of shape with exercise. When you are going through your life, running your business is kind of the same stuff that you have to do all day, every day. And they could probably do any number of the things that they do completely in their sleep. But when it becomes so automated like that, the same things, very repetitive, you're not stretching your mind.
So basically they'll just take whatever they hear as fact when it comes to a lot of fake news and heightened news when it comes to the fear mentality. And I know that our Patreon listeners heard me do like an hour-long episode about this fight I got in with my mom last month. But after the episode, I called my mom and we had a nice long conversation and we sort of, got over it all. But it didn't change that. I think the critical thinking aspect of what, but like take my stepdad. He's got what I would consider some radical right-wing thoughts, but he's just a mirror to the things it just bounces off what it's like if you listen to sports talk radio all day and someone's like, what do you think of Tom Brady? Oh, he's going to fit in well with the new system. He's got extra weapons. You just start repeating everything you heard. Like that's all we do. We're so highly empathic in that way as humans that we start sounding like the people we're with are, the Madonna moves to England and she starts sounding British. That's how you are with certain talk radio. And he doesn't need to go, he's got a job and a life, so he doesn't go the extra mile doing his research. He's not on Facebook. So when he hears something and he goes, well, all lives matter, you go, yeah, okay. Oh, yeah, you're right. You just like, I'm not even going to argue with you because I don't expect my audience to agree with everything. I don't expect our audience to agree with everything we're saying about like certain issues. But when it comes down to it, I think there's been a lot of discussions that have been had where like the most of society has agreed about certain things. And like, it's simple to say that the Black Lives Matter movement is about supporting how a lot of black people are targeted, not just shot by police, but just targeted in their everyday life, walked around in stores and this and that and socioeconomic issues. So it's very specifically about that. So when you relate to someone and they go, well, all lives matter, it's like, well, when you support breast cancer awareness, you're not saying all cancer matters. You're just addressing breast cancer awareness. So I hope that makes sense for our basic definition of why all lives matter kind of takes away from what other people want. But with someone like my stepdad, not a mean bone in his body. He really doesn't have a mean bone in his body, but he doesn't live out these Facebook comments of like the counter arguments. So when he thinks like Planned Parenthood's the devil and they sell aborted fetuses, that's... What are you gonna do? You can't argue it.
You gotta block their news station, honey. You gotta get your hands on the remote and just block that channel.
That's why I wanna, and I said this as a status update, and I said it, and it got no traction because I asked people to reshare it, so Facebook shut it down. But I said I should start a podcast called The Camo Hour. So every episode starts with why you should be pro-life, the top 10 reasons you should be pro-life. And then it systematically breaks it apart so that by the end of you got to do it like in a nice...
Very strategic.
The top 10 reasons why you want to be pro-life. We're going to start with number 1. And then you slowly break it down. And then by then you're like, I guess we're pro-choice because, women should control their own body. And that sounds pretty right. And if you don't want to get an abortion, that's your choice not to. And that's a great, like the Camo Hour. So you camouflage rational thinking into hotbed issues. I don't know if this makes sense. I know. Sometimes I speak and I think of a few of our listeners that I know are completely against the political talk that we do. So a shout out to Rayanne in Minnesota. We thank you for listening. I hope you're still with us, and I know that everyone's sort of information they get is different, but we're fighting for you. And we want everyone to just be happy. And I was telling that to my younger brother when he was kind of sitting in between us arguing on the first night about politics around this nice new outdoor fireplace that my family got. And I was telling him afterwards, like, look, I just don't want you to be ruled by fear. And again, fear comes from all sides of the media. They just kind of want to control you by fear because blood, what do they say? If it bleeds, it leads. And that's unfortunately not how I think podcasting works, but that's how like the traditional media works. And I think our generation is moving towards long form conversations about interesting topics that aren't always cut or dry. But
are nuanced.
A lot of things are nuanced. But the thing that I told my mom this because, I heard her in the other room, I heard her in the other room listening to some wildly inaccurate. I wasn't trying to interrupt whatever media she was getting, but it was wildly inaccurate, just wild. And I immediately was like, hey, look, here's the deal with this. And like started to talk to her. And she was like, why do you come in here and just, I try to get news media from all sides. And that's when I was kind of like, this is futile. Like I should just appreciate my family for the loving people that they are and know that whatever like a moth that are attracted to a light, they are attracted to this fear-mongering news. I don't know what it is, but it's that Law and Order culture. You just want to see someone get assaulted and find out that the perpetrator got convicted at the end. You just want a happy story. I don't know. But someone posted that it was funny that like Trump was like his RNC speech was him basically saying that he was the only solution to the problems he created. He's like, I will save you from the last 4 years. Oh yeah. Anyway, but my family my mom's very spiritual, and she showed me this today and I wanted to read it with you. I know we talked about it a little earlier. She has this little booklet. I'm whipping it out if anyone's on the YouTube. She's got this little booklet called The Golden Book by Dale Carnegie. And it's, he wrote How to Win Friends and Influence People and How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And it's so important. I mean, these really are daily practices, but can we just go over a few?
Sure.
I feel like this would be fun to do. How to become a friendlier person. This is an interesting one.
I could use this.
So let's go through this. How to become a friendlier person. We're going to violate every single one of these rules, but it's good to know.
I read some of these this morning, so I'm going to check myself and see if I put any of these things in practice.
All right,
today.
Dale Carnegie's 9 tips on how to become a friendlier person. Number 1, don't criticize, condemn, or complain.
I'm a complainer.
Number 2, give honest, sincere appreciation. Oh, that's a great one. Appreciation. I would love to give more appreciation tonight as it's our last night to my parents. I'd love to give them more appreciation.
That, a goal.
Number 3, arouse in the other person an eager want. You want to break that down for me? Arouse in the other person an eager want.
I think...
What the hell does that mean?
Well, arouse is like excite. So... arouse in another person. There was one on there that was like...
beautifully written. I don't know what it means.
Maybe it's on the next page, but it's like get the person you're talking to, ask them what they're excited about.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So becoming genuinely, so the next one kind of helps that. Number 4, become genuinely interested in other people. And number 5 is smile. So first of all, smiling is amazing. It doesn't mean you don't have problems. It doesn't mean you're not going through rough times, but it's letting a smile is a communication to the other person that this moment we're safe. Mm-hmm. We're okay. And I think that's a very beautiful thing to do.
And behind your masks, you got to smile even bigger. You got to wrinkle the corners of your eyes to let other people know that you are a safe.
It's so hard with that. Isn't that what's crazy about?
We're all going to have extra deep crow's feet. Those of us who were alive in 2020.
So many simple. By the way, the solar lights are coming on right now. We've got lights around this. What's this called? The gazebo. Solar powered lights. That's. Smiling. It's interesting in 2020 that part of like yelling at people in Trader Joe's, you're not seeing each other's faces. It's the same BS that leads to like Facebook fighting. You don't see the other human, and that's so important to like see the other human you're talking to and connect. And when it comes to the 9 tips for becoming a friendlier person, smile. I mean, that's the common denominator. It really is. Number 6, remember that a person's name is to him or her the sweetest and most important sound in any language.
This is what you've been saying lately, you say that I say your name in a mean way. That's right, Tasha. More than I say it in a nice way. Guys, listen.
Tasha all day long, hey, babe, how you doing? Sugar, how you doing, baby? Hey, boo-boo, what's going on? And then she's like, Dave, why is the seat up? It's like, whoa, don't hard D me. No, you actually end it with Dave. You go, you always do this, Dave. Whoa, don't weapon. And my thing was, don't weaponize my name. So I told you have to say, I love you, Dave, 10 times to get it, to
even it out.
There is something beautiful about saying somebody's name. And I want to repeat that one more time.
But you never say my name.
Listen, Tasha, remember that a person's name is to him or her the sweetest and most important sound in any language.
Don't ever say my name next to listen. Rule number 1. Scratch that out and never say your wife's name next to
But
listen.
Isn't that beautiful, Tasha? Isn't that beautiful that when you say somebody's name, you're letting them know that, you know them and you're connecting specifically to them. It was kind of hard for me. It's going to sound crazy, but I have some nieces and nephews. I had to consistently remember which one I was talking to. They always say like, oh, you forget all of them, blah, blah, blah. Well, I really was like, is that Benjamin or Connor? Because I was so afraid to call them the wrong name. My grandfather, I haven't had a good relationship with him. He's kind of has been an alcoholic recluse, which, that's how it's always been. But I remember once he called me Timmy because my cousin's Timmy. And I had gone through puberty, so he hadn't seen me in a couple of years since I probably grew a foot. But it's as codependent as I am to not want the other person to like feel bad, I just shrugged it off, and it was fine. But it's like, that wasn't me. You didn't know you don't know who I am. We're blood. So it's very important to me to be like Benjamin versus like just slipping up and saying the wrong one, because I am just visiting for the only time this year. So I just didn't want to mess that up. But obviously Dale Carnegie, he was kind of more of a lot of business minded people would read this. So when you meet someone new, to say their name multiple times, and it's important.
It's helpful.
And a lot of times you're racing to say the next thing. Like whenever you meet someone, you're single, you meet someone at the bar, you gotta text your buddy and be like, dude, I need to get to the bar and find out if her name's Rebecca or Stacy, because you met her, but you were too busy worrying about the next thing you were gonna say. So you're 3 hours into the conversation being like, do you have a weird looking driver's license photo? And she's like, no. And you're like, prove it. And then she shows you, it's like, oh, it's Stacy, I knew you did. That's a good way to do it. That's a really good way to do it. So if anyone doesn't know the name of their
clever
chick they're trying to bang, just ask her what her driver license photo looks like. Be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves. Number 8, talk in terms of the other person's interest.
I think that's what the excite and arouse was all about.
Yeah.
Yeah, get them talking about something they're excited about.
And that's the same way when it comes to first dates or whatever. It's like, get the other person, which is hard because I get so excited about what I'm doing in my life.
Well, you are excited about things that you're passionate about and things that you know, right? And you only know what you know. You don't know what they know. So sometimes people are great at directing and steering a conversation and making it two-way, and sometimes they're not.
So should I send this one to your mom? Talk in terms of the other person's interests? Guys, our last Patreon episode, we went really deep into how
Dave has issues.
I'll say, yeah, I have issues for sure. My grandfather didn't know who I was. That's what it all starts with. My dad abandoned me. My mom left him. It's a whole thing, guys. But here we are in a pergola or something. What is this? A gazebo. We're in a gazebo. What's the difference between a pergola and a gazebo? I don't know.
Different.
Anyway, I'm just going to tease the Patreon episode. I really enjoyed it. We were driving the Ford Fiesta up to Michigan. Yeah, from Kentucky to Michigan, and we talked about how it's funny that Tasha's mom was more excited to talk to Tasha's sister's fiance because he's becoming a doctor and she's a pharmacist, so they can talk medical things together. But no one asked me anything about stand-up, and all I want is people to ask me about what made you write that joke, and I'd be like, well, you got an hour. I just want to tell a story.
But you got to understand that my mom also has an interest in medicine, so it's an easy thing for her to talk about.
But if she applied number 8, talk in terms of the other person's interest, you know what? I'm going to apply number 8. I'm going to learn some weird pharmacy stuff and talk to your mom about it.
Yeah, you should research a dozen. You should read the pharmaceutical journals before we go home.
How funny would that be?
That would be hysterical.
I'm like, hey, Jeannie, did you hear about this new thing in trial? She's like, I have. Well, sit down because I got some news for you. What's funny is that your mom actually did mention she started watching some of our YouTube videos. So,
and then I was like, oh boy.
So I'll know. So I'll know if she's actually watching past minute 44. If she's like, so Dave, how did you get into stand-up? I'd be like, Jeannie, let's make some, hard iced teas and have a fun night together. Because the last one, number 9, make the other person feel important and do it sincerely. This is very valuable, guys. And all these tips, they sort of sound like pandering to the other person, but what you're doing is you're allowing
the person that you're interacting with a safe space
to feel good,
fly free, to like let their freak flag fly.
And what I love is that, I love that my mom keeps this on her, because none of us are perfect. We've all got our demons, and my mom in the end wants what's best for her kids. She wants to know she did a good job. And I think with my sister and I, she had us with her first husband, left him. He has since passed away, my father. And I think my mom just wants to not feel like she failed us, which of course she didn't. She's been a great mom. And I have to remind her that. And that's what I told her, like, the last time we got in a fight. I was like, Mom, you've been a great mom. Like, I get all of my spirituality, like all of my spiritual curiosities from her. And I said, I get it from you. And she did, and she like very nicely rolled her eyes like she did this. She was like, oh, okay. Like, I was like, no, look at me. She rolled her eyes away. I go, look at me. I'm complimenting you. You need to take it. And I made her just absorb it. And it was just a fun moment. But I like called her out on it. To like, no. You don't get to just, no, really, Mom. I mean it. You carry a Dale Carnegie note, like 4-page, like old ass. This is like from the 80s. It's this old little thing. I'll have to take some photos of the other things in them. But so it says there's a thing on tips for becoming a friendlier person. How to win people to your way of thinking, which, I'd love to win people over to the Patreon if they want to go up. I'll just do one for that one. So let's pick number 5. Oh, no, number 14 is my lucky number. Get the other person saying yes immediately. So, do you guys love living? Yes. Do you want to be supporting our Patreon? Yes. Okay, there it is.
3 times. Yes, yes.
Do you
love our podcast?
Yes. All right, good. So, and then principles from how to stop worrying and start living. Let's just go through this, right? This is fine. We'll do like 10 more minutes of this.
Yeah, do a little chit chat.
All right, because it's getting dark here. If anyone's watching on the YouTube, we'll boost the brightness as much as possible. But all you can see is a silhouette of a mosquito trying to sting Tasha's forehead. It's great. And by the way, this would be. I'd be completely fine if this was the last episode. Like if I were to crash on a plane tomorrow.
Why would you even say that?
I'm just saying. Do I got to hit the wood? Hit the wood. All right, I just hit the wood. I'm just saying, if this is the way it goes, I hope that people will smile more. This will be my thing. Just smile more. I know women hate to hear that. Hey, honey, just smile more. Well, smile more to the people that aren't catcalling you on the street. Fundamental principles for overcoming worry. Sorry if I read this slow. It's pitch black. Number 1. There's only 3. Let's do them. Number 1. Live in day-tight compartments. What the hell does that mean?
So take it one day at a time. That's what that means.
Oh, I was like, a studio space? I had no idea what that meant. Day-tight compartments. So don't, set a big picture, but don't think in Wayne Dyer, a lot of gurus would say this. Don't worry about time limits, time constraints for your goals, because they can come faster than you would think, or they could come at it in another backwards way. So if you want to own a home by the end of 2021, great, do everything you can, but live in the moment. Don't when things come up just start hating. I know, Tasha, I think this one's a tough one for you, because you'll see someone buys a barn and and goes on hunting trips, and you'll be like, why the fuck don't we do that? And it's like, okay, well, you start the travel blog, weareta.travels.com. We're starting, like a lot of gears have been put into motion, and we're building that world, and we just have to keep that appreciation, that gratitude open, and not let that stress and worry get in the way. Because I really don't think we can present the desire for these things while we worry. It's always like
it's
you're just
blocked by
it really is blocked. Worrisome
energy.
Blocks the acceptance in this space for more. And so that's what we look forward to having. And it's because we're really close that I can say that about you, because I know you'll tell me when you think one of these is my blockage.
Yeah. I'm not fighting you on this.
I know, but I'm not worried about that. But they do say that sometimes your soulmate is not somebody that agrees with you on everything. Didn't you say this in your wedding sermon?
Yes, I did say
Do you
this
remember
in my
what the
wedding
line was? Boy, it would be great if you could tell us.
People think our soulmate is a perfect match, and that's what everyone wants. But a true soulmate is a mirror, someone that shows you how to be your best self. Basically, that's a summary.
And
That's
sometimes
not
when they
verbatim.
show you what.
How to be what you are meant to be to encourage you to become your best self.
Yes, and it's easy for your soulmate to see your blockages or your speed bumps that are just like, you're so much more on your right path and you're doing so many great things, but sometimes, in yourself, you just think of all the negative. And that's what worrying is. It's worrying about like worst case scenarios versus just living in the moment. And luckily, I think acknowledging that is one of the greatest steps to overcoming it. Number 2, fundamental principles for overcoming worry. How to face trouble. This is A, B, and C. A, ask yourself, what is the worst that can possibly happen? B, prepare to accept the worst. And C, try to improve on the worst. So that's if like you got some real shit going on, but we don't really, I don't know if that's, you should always
Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. That's a nice rule to live by. Hope for the best, aspire for the best, but prepare for the worst.
Number 3, fundamental principles for overcoming worry. Remind yourself of the exorbitant price you can pay for worry in terms of your health.
Oh, yeah.
Stress will your hair will fall out. I mean, think about the biological things that your body will do with stress. No, I'm not a pharmacist. I'm not a doctor. I don't know what the hormone is that's released when you stress, but it is
But stress lowers your immune system. You're right. Stress can make your hair fall out. Stress can make you sick.
I told you that when you were worried, like before we got our COVID test, which we have our next one scheduled in LA, but we got one in Rhode Island. Tasha had a Q-tip shoved through her brain. We got it on the GoPro.
Yeah, we need to put that in the vlog, the East Coast vlog.
It'll definitely be on the East Coast vlog. We'll put it on the SAP's Instagram. But worrying about having COVID when you're just waiting on the results literally can't help you.
But I wasn't worried after we had tested.
I know. But should we just get out of here? We're at 52 minutes here. We're just we got a bunch of kids trying to break into our set here. We got a real set. So if I start whispering, how about this? So basic techniques in analyzing worry. Here you go. Let's barrel through this. Basic techniques in analyzing worry. Number 1, get all the facts. I'm blocking myself from the GoPro, but I literally can't see here.
Would you like me to read it?
No.
I can practically read it from here.
No, I got this like 1 kilo. I have this 1 watt solar powered light.
Your vision's no good in the dark.
Not good at all. And I don't worry about it. I accept it. Basic techniques in analyzing worry. 1, get all the facts. 2, weigh all the facts, then come to a decision. 3, once a decision is reached, act. That's kind of like don't ruminate. Once you've got all your choices, stop ruminating and just make a decision.
Absolutely. That's how I operate.
Now, I'm not accusing you, Tasha. Number 4, write out and answer the following questions. What is the problem? What are the causes of the problem? What are the possible solutions? What is the best solution? Yeah, because so much of worrying, like we've talked before on the perfection detox, is ruminating the same thought over and over. What if this? What if this? What if this?
Worrying happens most in limbo, or when some sort of situation or action specifically is outside of your control. Doesn't that make sense? For example, starting to feel itchy in my throat, feeling nauseous, and not being able to get a test.
Well, how about this?
The next day.
You know what is the number one thing that's going to cause Tasha Courtney to worry? Too much free time. When you have a lot of free time, you start thinking of all the shit that you're not doing.
When I have free time, I enjoy myself.
Well, yeah, maybe for like a day, but day 2 of free time, Tasha, you start looking on TikTok, which is all people's beautiful homes. You do this. You ruminate over like, why don't we have what these other people have? It's too much free time. So anyway, the point is, break the worry habit before it breaks you. Number 1, keep busy. 2, don't fuss about trifles. 3, use the law of averages to outlaw your worries.
Law of averages.
We'll have to look up some of this. 4, cooperate with the inevitable. 5, decide just how much anxiety a thing may be worth and refuse to give it more. 6, don't worry about the past. So decide how much anxiety you want to give something and don't give it more. So like if
you're allowed a healthy amount of worry.
Yeah, I'm going to panic a little
You're allowed
bit.
an actionable amount of worry.
But then
you're not allowed, once you've taken your action steps, right? Then it's time to clean your hands and let it go.
Yeah.
Right? Accept the inevitable. Be prepared to face the inevitable.
But how do you...
Hope for the best. Prepare for the worst.
But what happens when I think you've ruminated too much, or vice versa? Say it's my thing. How do you tell me, all right, Dave, you're in a cycle now? Because I would appreciate that.
Am I allowed to say your name?
No. but you can be defensive. So if I'm like, oh man, this fucking thing, like it's not taking up, blah blah blah.
Yeah, but I do this to you, and you just don't.
No, but I'm saying
anything
well,
I say.
But sometimes, like if someone's spinning out of control, like you know those merry-go-rounds that spin. Mm-hmm. Do you just grab one of the poles and the thing stops?
No,
you start hitting people, you start slowing them down. So I feel like that's how you got to stop someone from spiraling out of control, their rumination.
And I slap
to be like,
on the face.
Well, just to say, what's the issue? Like workshop it. What's the issue? Okay, so
yeah, I think workshopping it is a smart idea.
And then you go, okay, and if I go, oh, I bombed, my stand-up set sucked, all these people are better than me. Go, okay, you don't think you did good tonight? No. Well, why don't you make a hot tea and spend the next 30 minutes just free writing? Maybe you'll come up with some funny jokes then and go, yeah, that's a more productive use of my time than just complaining. So, but anyway, I think there's just examples for how we can sort of get out of each other's way. Let's jump to this. Don't worry about criticism. Remember that unique criticism is often a disguised compliment. 2, do the very best you can. 3, analyze your own mistakes and criticize yourself. That's why
do you think we do a good job of that?
Well, with the clip that went viral, the Joey Diaz clip, we got 55,000 views. We got 1,600 negative comments. Most people hated it. A couple hundred people thought it was okay. It wasn't our best content, so I that's why I wasn't proud of the fact that that's the thing that went. But also, we've committed to not quitting. So I just tell people that a lot of people that post really shitty things on there, I go, you know what? That video was made like, our 8th episode in a row of being quarantined in our studio apartment, and it kind of sucked. So do us a favor and watch one of our rooftop episodes. I think we're bringing the fun back, but I think it was tough. I think we've been committed to podcast recording when we're in great moods, and sometimes it feels more like a chore, but in the end we always feel better afterwards.
But I'm not talking about just professionally. I'm talking about personally. Do you think that we do a good job of evaluating ourselves and our behaviors and the places where we fall short and challenge ourselves to do better next time? Do you think we're introspective in that way enough?
I think I'm always going to want more, and I think that's part of critiquing yourself. Like whenever I cook dinner, I'm like, did you like it? Was this too salty? And I'm just always kind of being like, how can I make this better? And I think I do that with my creative life.
We're getting some light now.
Oh, nice. The solar panels are kicking on just in time for the end of the episode. We're being overrun by people barbecuing. I think I'm sensitive to criticism, but I listen to it. I do listen to it, but I'm sensitive because I'll put so much hard work into something, and then you or someone else might be like...
I'm not talking about criticism from others. I'm talking about criticism from ourselves.
I think I can be very harsh to myself. I think you're pretty harsh to yourself too, but like, why? What do you think?
I don't know. I think... I'm not talking about specific. I'm not talking about anything professional. I'm talking about like personal. Like I think that I am growing more by like taking a hard look in the mirror at some of my own personality traits, some of my own quirks, and being like, does this serve me? No. Is this the best I can be? No. Making actionable
for sure.
change.
Yeah, I know. I've had a problem that in the last year or so, I've noticed that my ruminating is bad, and that I look at all the reasons why things aren't working out in LA, just in careers, and it's hard. It's tough to say this because it sounds so negative, but to address it, I have been pretty hard on myself. And all of my friends and people that meet me, and like even today, Tinsa, she's like so proud of us, and she was so nice, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, you guys are doing this crazy things." And our nieces and nephews are like, "Wow, you guys are on YouTube crazy." We're like, "Are you kidding me? This sucks." So I'm hypercritical. But then we meet them and they go, "Oh, Dave, you're the hardest working friend I know," and I go, "Oh, well, maybe that's as a result of always feeling like I can do more." But I do have a lot. I do always have a lot in store for what I want to do, and I know that I have to do it before anyone else will help me. You can't expect others to help you till you're willing to do it. So, like, when I'm making Hollywood posters with Channing, he's always like, "Oh, syncing all the audio and video is the worst." And I go, "All right, let me do it." So then the next morning, I had it all done for him, and I was like, "I'm showing that I'm willing to do the shittiest part of post-production, which is seeing which audio goes with which video." I'm staring at people's lips, trying to lip read as I set it all up, and
you should move that up so you can see your eyes.
It sounds stupid, but I do think that if I want anyone to work with me, they've got to believe that like I'll do the thing. I'll do the tough part. So whenever it comes down to like when I used to run a painting company, I would be the first guy to go up to the scariest part of the roof and hang off the rope to get the top of the, to get the peak of the roof. I'll always want to show people that I'm willing to do the most bullshit thing to get something done. I never want to live in a limitation where like I don't do a podcast because we're not on a network. We'll do the whole thing ourselves. But I also think I need to do a better job of accepting others' help and like delegating other people and all that. But anyway, I don't know if that's. I think I'm very critical of myself. But I also
in a healthy way.
Well,
is it a healthy thing or is it an unhealthy thing?
No, I need to do a better job of like. Some days you remember I'll be laying in bed and be like, "Sorry, honey, I can't even sleep right now. My brain is running," and that's when it's too far. I need to know that I've done enough today. And what's that? Live in a tight space. What does that say? What was the thing that whole said? Got to live in a
one day at a time, honey.
Yeah, but what was the one day at a time? Whatever it was. I can't remember what it was. But yeah, I got to do a better job of knowing that the day's over and I tried my best. And we're going back to LA after a nice, long, amazing trip, and I do want to keep working harder. I do want people to see a movie poster from something I wrote. I do want to be performing in town and make people laugh. And whenever I don't live up to that, I'm the first one to know. If I'm not doing good in stand-up, I'm the first one to know. I might say, "Oh, that person in the audience sucked," or whatever. Sure, but in the end, there is something about stand-up and just comedy in general that you'd have to be a psychopath to not know when you're failing. So I don't know if you feel that way. You go to an audition.
Yeah, those people exist.
We got to get out of here. Are we good with this?
What's on the last page?
You want to see what the last page is?
Can I read it?
Yeah, you can read it, sure. Make it quick, though.
Don't tell me what to do. We've been sitting
Make
here
it quick,
for an hour.
Tasha. We got people ready to take over this rotunda.
All right.
Is this a rotunda? What's a gazebo? What's the difference between a gazebo and a rotunda?
You said don't worry about criticism?
Yeah.
All right.
There's a whole nother page there.
Prevent fatigue and worry and keep our energy and spirits high.
Oh, that's good. How many tips are there?
6.
Nice. The final 6 tips to preventing fatigue and keeping our spirits high. Edibles.
1, rest before you get tired. That's very important. To know, like, when we're going to have strenuous days, to get a great night's sleep ahead of time, to prevent burnout, to know when it's time to step away, to take a break, to pick things up tomorrow.
Okay.
Number 2, learn to relax at your work. Yeah, make things fun, right?
That's a tough one.
A work day is all about your attitude, though, isn't it?
Remembering to have fun with what you do.
Some days are fun at work. Some days suck at work, but some days are really fun at work, and those are always the best days, right?
Absolutely.
They're enjoyable. 3, if you run a household, protect your health and appearance by relaxing at home. Yeah, you can tell this was made in the 50s. All right.
For all the dames out there, when you're running your household, make sure the sandwiches are made on time.
Apply these 4 good working habits. Oh, baby, you're going to have to pay attention to these. A, B, C, and D, all right? A, clear your desk of all papers except those relating to the immediate problem at hand. Yes, because distractions. It's the same as like trying to work on your phone or work on your computer with 50,000 tabs open. And I will go ahead and preemptively admit that is an issue for me.
Yeah, you have issues with tabs. I have issues with joke pages.
50 notebooks.
I got set lists everywhere.
Okay. B, do things in order of their importance. You got to rank what you're going to tackle. And maybe that's snowball method, and maybe that's most pressing matter first. C, when you face a problem, solve it then and there if you have the facts necessary to make a decision. Yeah, why kick
That's
the
like
can down
answering
the
the
road
phone when someone's got an issue, just address it. Yeah.
Yeah, just answer the phone.
Okay,
Just
good.
take care of it now.
Simple, perfect.
D, learn to organize, deputize, and supervise. Yes.
Tasha's pointing at me right now.
Yes.
You mean with the Hollywood posers?
Organize, deputize, and supervise. Organize means
I started
put
a shared
together-
Google calendar. They
Yeah.
messed up the date, not
no,
me.
it's okay, honey. But here's how it goes. Organize. Get it all set up, right? Decide who you want doing what. Deputize. Assign tasks to each person according to their ability.
Okay.
Right? Deputize. And supervise. Check in from time to time.
Yeah, I just hate this part.
I know, but it's part of
That's why I want to just do all the shit
running
myself.
things.
Yeah.
It's part of running stuff. You got to supervise.
You would
And it
hate that
doesn't
too,
mean
though.
Be overbearing, but it just means check in. Hey, reminder. It's been 1 week since we kicked off this project. Where do things stand? 2 weeks from deadline. You know,
Yeah. Is that the whole list?
that's D of point 4. So we've got 2 more. Number 5. Put enthusiasm into your work. That's hard to do when you do something that you don't particularly enjoy.
I have nothing but enthusiasm with everything I do.
But
And
how do you find the joy in things that you don't, that you aren't enthusiastic about? Because there are certain aspects of your work
it's
that
like editing.
you are not
You asked me if I
enthusiastic about.
enjoyed editing, and I was like, honey, no one enjoys editing, but I enjoy what I make. It's like it's like ask an actor if they enjoy memorizing lines. You'd be a psycho if you said yes. But once they are memorized, you enjoy acting them out.
Mm-hmm.
So I have so much enthusiasm for what I enjoy making. I bother you because I'm always like, hey, look at this. Hey, look at this. And it's like, I love doing all that. I do. I really, having an enthusiasm for what I do is not a problem. I'm so happy. My only thing that I'm looking for in life is to expand my horizon, because that means getting more wealth for doing what I do. So while I grow, while I study what it is to do to make people interested or happy or laugh or whatever, as I get better, just keep on expanding my territory, keep on increasing my YouTube subscribers, keep on just relating to people in a way that I get monetized for doing it, so I can clear up my whole life schedule from all the baloney so I can just do the things that I'm enthused by. And we tell people this when they're like wondering what they want to study in college or this or that. It's like, whatever it is that you are excited to talk about, find a way to make money doing that or something in that neighborhood. That's simple. Find out what it is. You'll be worth more than the person who does it half-assed. Mm-hmm. What's the last
Or
one,
does
honey?
it without passion. All right. This is a throwaway. Don't worry about insomnia, because worrying only makes it worse. Listen.
We just had a lot of coffee too, and we have a 4 a.m. wake up for this flight, so I'm definitely not going to be sleeping.
Bad news. Hopefully the sugar's enough that I'll crash. All right. Because we're talking so much about putting out positivity and attracting positivity in return, we have to hit on this last section, okay?
Oh, we got to be quick.
It's quick. It's quick. Don't tell me to be quick. We've been sitting out here all day.
Hurry up, Tasha.
You're taking your sweet time. I'm going to take my time. All right. Cultivate a mental attitude that will bring you peace and happiness. 7 points. 1, fill your mind with thoughts of peace, courage, health, and hope.
Hope is important.
Number 2.
Hope is the opposite of worry.
Yeah.
Hope is the opposite of worry.
Yeah. Best case scenario.
How about that for a podcast
scenario.
title? Hope is the opposite of worry.
Yeah. Okay.
That's it.
There you go. You got
That's
it.
the episode.
Aren't
Bye,
you
everyone.
glad we put
All right,
this
finish
in your
this out.
pocket? Okay. Number
I'm
2.
going to forget what I said, by the way.
Hope is the opposite of worry.
Gotcha.
Never try to get even with your enemies.
Wow. Yeah, it's a cancer that makes you sick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like hoping for someone else's pain just causes your pain or whatever.
All right. This is important for you to hear. Ready
Yeah.
for number 3? Expect ingratitude.
What does that mean? Expect no one to be grateful for what you do?
Expect ingratitude. From time to time,
I set the bar high.
you're going to, in my job, I know that I definitely during times of Corona have been feeling really bummed and really undervalued. because, I think it's easy for some of my clients to think of me as a mannequin and not a person. But you've got to expect ingratitude
and when you're given gratitude, you'll appreciate it. Relish it, yeah. And I do, folks. Right in.
Number 4, and this is important for me for sure. No, there's 7.
There's 7, okay.
Count your blessings, not your troubles.
Wow. Yep, expand the love and it'll decrease all the hate.
Count your blessings, not your troubles. And that's hard to do because when you have a problem, it's only natural to focus on it for purposes of solving it, right? We're just hardwired to solve problems. So when you see a problem, when you see a trouble, it only makes evolutionary sense to focus on it. But let's focus on our blessings and not
the
our
solution
troubles.
In most cases is to do the good things you can, and that will outweigh whatever the negative is, or just completely kick it off the shelf.
Do not imitate others.
Great. I said that today to someone we were getting way too many compliments from this relative. I won't say who because she might listen or watch this, and she was very sweet, but she was being so complimentary to us that it felt like, you know what I mean? Like I said, I want my love language is I want the affirmation, but I can't always take it. Just like I was criticizing my mom for not taking it. But she was like, oh, blah, blah, blah. How do you, why, she was just saying all these
she has obviously read this book. She knows how to win friends and influence people. She knows how to get us excited.
But she also had no reason to.
Passionate about.
She wasn't like, and now I want to sell you on my multi-level marketing.
No, she was being polite.
Yeah.
She has great social skills, better than ours.
But I think, she's great. But I think she has a natural, she was a natural curiosity, which this helps formulate that. But some people are naturally good at interviewing and naturally good at just wanting to know about others. And yeah. All right, what's the last one?
2 more. Try to profit from your losses.
That's like, okay, that's a good one. That's like when I cut my finger open and I'm going to make a YouTube video about it.
There you go.
Or when someone stole my car.
5 cents in your bank account to offset that $500.
Someone stole my car battery and I was like, I got to make a YouTube video so I can show this off and pay the bills.
And the last, create happiness for others.
Oh, interesting. Well, I think that's probably a pretty good way to end it because it's kind of what the podcast is all about. We want happiness, but we also want people to be content with their life, with the choices that they're making, with their communicating, with just living your authentic life. And I think that's
feeling like they really are living up to the best versions of themselves, right?
And that's what leads to happiness. So I think that's a great way to end this. It's a great way to end this 15-day trip. If anyone's a deep listener of the podcast, they know I've been wanting this for a while. So it's so good. What do you want to say?
I'm talked out. I feel like we had a good chat.
You're talked out. That's a good name for a podcast. Talked out. So what do we call this one? This is Hope. I forgot what it's called.
Hope is the opposite of worry.
Hope is the opposite of worry. So we hope that we can really spend the rest of 2020 doing whatever we can to keep creating and letting the rest work itself out. And also, guys, if you can and want to, check out the Patreon. I do have a free episode on Patreon that people can listen to. I decided to make one free episode recently. Patreon.com/SAP, Patreon.com/THESAP. So go over there and check that out. We got to go. Thank you guys so much for being there for us and with us and sharing us on your Instagram stories and all the jazz that you've been doing. We appreciate you all so, so much. So without further ado, that's the episode. Bye, everybody.
Bye.